I'm not completely sure if you've sensed the exact same atmosphere, but right now NASCAR is sitting right in the middle of a moment packed with a truly special and unmistakable kind of energy. It honestly feels like we're standing precisely on the brink of something major, a genuine turning point for the sport. What makes the whole situation even more exciting is that this change isn't coming from just one direction. Instead, two important developments are happening simultaneously, and the way they come together has the real potential to completely reshape everything we are about to witness once the cars hit the track again. On one hand, there is a significant adjustment taking place behind the scenes that could fundamentally alter the way drivers fight for position at one of the toughest and most demanding tracks on the entire schedule. This is an issue that has been lingering for quite some time, and it finally looks like it is about to get the serious attention and proper resolution it has long deserved. On the other hand, the schedule has created an unusual break, one that carries the feeling of a calm settling in right before a powerful storm begins to build. Because what waits right on the other side of this pause has every chance of turning into one of the most meaningful races in the early portion of the season. If you consider yourself a dedicated NASCAR fan, you already understand these kinds of moments very well. These are exactly the instances that ultimately decide the full path and direction of an entire championship battle. So stay with me as we break down both of these stories in detail. And quickly, if you enjoy this style of thorough NASCAR discussion, please do me a favor and hit that like button right now while you're here, and make sure to subscribe as well. This channel is just starting to build real momentum, and we are putting in genuine effort to reach 15,000 subscribers. It's all about authentic fans coming together for honest conversations about real racing. Let's start with the first development, because this particular one has the ability to dramatically reshape what happens when the cars take to the surface at Bristol Motor Speedway. NASCAR and Goodyear have brought in a rather substantial tire update created specifically for the Food City 500. And if you have been following Bristol closely across recent seasons, you already know precisely why this change stands out as such an important matter. The main problem has revolved around highly unpredictable tire wear, and not the exciting kind that produces great racing. We have watched events where the tires would break down dramatically, literally coming apart and shedding large chunks, especially when the air temperatures dropped. That combination of cooler conditions mixed with Bristol's rough concrete surface caused the rubber to struggle with laying down correctly. Instead of forming those rich, dark, traditional racing grooves that every fan loves to see, the tires were simply tearing themselves apart. That is not the type of competition NASCAR or Goodyear wants to deliver. Their goal is for the rubber to slowly and steadily melt into the track over the course of a run, which creates several effective racing lines, gives drivers real choices, and ultimately delivers far more engaging and enjoyable racing for everyone watching from the stands or at home. What makes this particular update especially interesting is the process behind it. Goodyear carried out a focused tire test last November. According to Justin Fantasy, the director of racing for the Americas at Goodyear, that session generated a large quantity of extremely useful information. His main aim was to develop a tire that relies much less on temperature in order to put rubber down in the right way. Teams have spoken out strongly about how sharply conditions can shift from practice to race day. You might show up with a setup that works excellently during practice, only for the weather to head in a different direction, and suddenly all of that preparation loses its value. Yet during that November test, even under cold temperatures, the track began to accept the rubber in a positive manner. The same encouraging results showed up once again during the March OEM wheel force test. Because of this, Goodyear is heading into this weekend with real confidence in the new tire package. There is, however, one important point to note. This tire modification is limited only to the NASCAR Cup Series. That means the Cup cars will race on this revised tire, while the Craftsman Truck Series and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, which run on Friday and Saturday, will stay with the exact same tire compound they have used since the fall of 2022. As a result, we could see noticeably different handling behaviors and racing characteristics across the entire weekend at the very same track. And that part is truly captivating. Because if Goodyear has managed to find the right balance here, if they have discovered that ideal middle ground between too much tire wear and almost no degradation at all, where cars can run around 150 laps comfortably on one set, then Sunday has the potential to show Bristol racing at its absolute best. We are talking about meaningful tire strategy, cars moving forward and falling back through the field, multiple grooves staying in play, and all the elements that make short-track racing so exciting and unique. But if the new tire does not live up to expectations, we could easily fall back into erratic tire issues or yet another event where strategy plays only a minor role. So there is clearly a great deal riding on how these tires perform this weekend. Now let's move to the second development, because this one sets up the perfect stage for everything that comes next. For the first time during the current season, the NASCAR Cup Series is taking a genuine break across Easter weekend, and I have to say it feels somewhat unusual. We have had continuous racing since February, and now all of a sudden there is no Cup event on Sunday, just a quiet gap in the calendar. It is not total silence, of course. Both the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Craftsman Truck Series competed at Rockingham the previous weekend, so dedicated fans still had plenty of action to enjoy. Even so, the missing Cup race on Sunday hits in a different way. And the timing of this break actually carries real importance, because it arrives right after a particularly strong sequence of racing. We just watched Chase Elliott put together an impressive performance at Martinsville Speedway, pulling away from Denny Hamlin on March 29th to claim the Cookout 400 victory. That stood out as a commanding win on a short track. At the same time, Tyler Reich has been performing at a completely different level throughout this season. He sits in a solid position at the top of the point standings, and the margin is far from close. He has already secured victories at the Daytona 500, consecutive wins at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and another strong showing at the Duramax Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. That represents clear dominance. So as we head into this break, the sport is carrying real energy, interesting storylines, and emerging rivalries, and then everything stops for a brief period. But this interruption is not random. It has been placed deliberately to lead straight into what could become one of the most important races of the opening part of the season. Because when the Cup Series returns, it goes directly to Bristol Motor Speedway for the Food City 500 on April 12th, airing live at 2 p.m. on FS1. Not only will we see this updated tire compound in action, but there is also an enhanced horsepower package being introduced. That combination has the entire garage focused and paying close attention. Bristol already ranks as one of the most difficult and unforgiving circuits in motorsports, narrow, heavily banked, and offering no room whatsoever for mistakes. Now add increased horsepower on top of a tire that could completely change how the track surface develops during the race, and you end up with the ideal formula for total chaos or outstanding racing, possibly a mix of both happening at once. And the calendar does not become any easier afterward. Immediately following Bristol is the Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway on April 19th on Fox. Then comes the Jack Links 500 at Talladega Superspeedway on April 26th, an event everyone recognizes as one filled with complete unpredictability. After that arrives the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway on May 24th, considered by many to be one of the toughest races on the schedule. There is even the distinctive Anduril 250 at Naval Base Coronado in San Diego on June 21st. And naturally, the full season progresses toward the NASCAR Cup Series Championship at Homestead Miami Speedway on November 8th. So this Easter break is far more than just a rest period. It serves as the quiet moment right before a major and decisive stretch of racing that has the power to shape the story of the entire 2026 season. And as a fan, these are precisely the kinds of occasions that deserve your full attention, because we now have a fresh tire, an updated power package, a driver riding a powerful wave of success in Tyler Reich, renewed energy from Chase Elliott, and all of it is set to come together directly at Bristol. That is exactly why this race carries so much weight. That is why the Food City 500 is one you should mark clearly on your schedule. Because there exists a genuine chance that months from now we will look back and recognize that weekend as the point when everything shifted. Now I want to know what you think in the comments. What do you anticipate seeing at Bristol? Do you feel Goodyear has finally perfected this tire, or are we heading into another weekend filled with uncertain tire behavior? Share your opinions with me. Let's talk about it, because from my perspective, this whole scenario carries the sense of one of those authentic turning points in the season, the type we often only truly value after the checkered flag has dropped. I truly appreciate that NASCAR and Goodyear are making active efforts to fix the tire situation rather than simply accepting it as it is. Bristol is much too valuable a racetrack to let its events be spoiled by tires breaking down in inconsistent and unfair manners. We want purposeful tire strategy and manageable wear, but it needs to be logical. It should reward drivers who handle their equipment with intelligence, rather than penalizing the whole field in random ways. At the same time, I am approaching the situation with a reasonable amount of caution. Every time news emerges about a new tire solution or an upgraded package, that same question always remains. Did they truly achieve the correct balance, or are we about to encounter something entirely unlike what we are expecting? And when you combine that uncertainty with the added horsepower package, the level of unpredictability increases even further. Extra power at Bristol already requires improved throttle control, opens up more chances for errors, and adds pressure to every single driver. Now include a tire that could perform differently across extended runs, and this race suddenly becomes much more focused on which teams and drivers can adjust the fastest. That is precisely why I think this event will help distinguish the serious championship contenders from everyone else. Drivers such as Tyler Reich, who are currently enjoying strong momentum, could take full advantage of these conditions and keep extending their lead. But at the same time, experienced drivers like Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott, coming off a notable victory, possess the background to understand how the track is evolving from one lap to the next. That skill could turn out to be the deciding factor in the final stages. We also cannot ignore the timing. Arriving straight after the Easter break, this is the sort of race where certain teams show up focused and ready while others appear less prepared. That short reset can either benefit you or work against you, and at a track like Bristol, there is no opportunity to gradually work through issues. So for me, this stands out as one of those uncommon weekends where every small detail becomes crucial, from car setup and tire management to track position and pure driver instinct. If Goodyear has succeeded with this tire, we might witness one of the best Bristol races in recent memory. If they have not, then we will likely be discussing a very different outcome once the race concludes. Regardless of how it plays out, I will be watching every single lap closely. And remember, if you value this kind of genuine, enthusiastic NASCAR conversation, please go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. The channel continues to grow. We are working steadily toward that 15,000 subscriber goal, and it exists completely for fans who follow and live this sport week after week. I'll catch you in the next one.